Hi, mate. Hope you're going well. Today is just going to be a quick one. I just want to share with you a question that will fundamentally change the way that you approach everyday life, as well as approaching success and peak performance and when you're trying to perform at your best and be the best that you can be, whether that's in a sporting context or a business context. So without further ado, we'll get into the question and then why it matters so much. So the question is simply this. What is your experience of life regardless of what is happening? So what is your experience regardless of what is happening? So what are the thoughts? What are the feelings? What is your experience of life no matter what happens? So why is this so important? People struggle with success and failure and trying to perform at their best, whether you're on a golf course, whether you're in a business meeting, doing a presentation, in a sales call. People struggle because they play this game of good versus bad. So mistakes versus, hitting a golf shot where you don't want it to go versus hitting a golf shot where you do want it to go. It's all the same game of good versus bad, making mistakes because you have this tension and this fear of failure because you really want to do well. And so every time that you make a mistake, you kind of freeze up and you really notice it. It all comes back to this of good versus bad. And essentially, it's the events in your life, the things that you do and the things that happen to you and your reaction to them. And I'm not saying to change your reaction. That's not where I'm going with this. What I'm saying is fundamentally, if your emotions, if your experience of life is dictated by what you do and also what happens to you, you will forever be on a roller coaster. So when things are going poorly, you're down here and this is bad. And then some days things go really well and this is good up here. Lovely. We love these days. But inevitably, because you play this game, some days you make mistakes and you get really frustrated. Other days everything goes really well. You have a breakthrough. You succeed. You achieve what you want to achieve. Great, happy days. But inevitably we go back down and then we go up and down and up and down like this. This is what happens when you play the game of good versus bad. This is what happens when the experience of your life, the thoughts and the emotions are dictated by what you do, i.e., whether you perform well or you make mistakes, or what happens to you in terms of the ball doesn't go where you want on the golf course, or the shot doesn't go in, or the presentation flops, whatever. When you play this game, you are always going to be on this roller coaster. And so this question helps you to step off this emotional roller coaster. What is your experience of life regardless of what happens? What do you want your experience of life to be regardless of what happens? When you figure that out, whether that's no matter what happens, I want to be confident. No matter what happens, I want to stay relaxed. No matter what happens, I want peace. No matter what happens, I want clarity. I want that to be the experience of my life. Once you kind of figure that out, once you figure out the thoughts and the emotions and the experience that you want for your life, regardless of what is happening, the next question then becomes, do you want that more than whatever you're trying to achieve? Do you want that more than the success? Do you want that more than the good versus the bad? Because until you want that more than the good versus bad, you're going to be stuck on this emotional roller coaster. Some days it's going to go well, great. But as I'm sure your experience of life has been, you're probably going to have more so-called bad things happen to you than good things. You're going to make more mistakes than successes or big achievements. You're going to lose more points than you're going to win. You're going to lose more games than you're going to win. It's the same thing in any area of life. As long as you play this game of good versus bad, you're going to be on this emotional roller coaster. When you step off this emotional roller coaster and you have confidence or clarity or peace or freedom or joy, all of these things are flat. And what I mean by that is, if you choose to, if you want peace more than you want success, you will experience peace regardless of what happens to you. If you want freedom, if you want to experience the freedom and joy more than you want the achievement or the money or the goal that you're trying to achieve, you will experience that and you will get it. And it will be consistent, because all of these things, all the events and all the mistakes that you make or the successes that you have, they're obviously all outside of you. The joy, the confidence, the peace, these are obviously all internal. Now, I'm not saying that you should, I'm not saying that you have to. You might think this is ridiculous. You might think it's crazy to think, well, what am I saying, to give up on all of my goals? Am I saying to give up on trying to succeed? It's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, what do you want more? And in actual fact, if you had confidence, no matter what happens, if you had clarity, no matter what happens, peace, joy, freedom, no matter what happens, wouldn't you perform better anyway? Wouldn't you be more likely to achieve what you want to achieve anyway? And not only would you be more likely to achieve it, you'd also consistently achieve it, because consistent confidence, consistent peace, joy, freedom, does that not equal consistent peak performance? Because that's how we feel. That is our experience of life when we are performing at our best, right? Life feels easy. Everything feels effortless. It's, you're in flow. This is what flow is, and this is how you can achieve flow consistently, is by simply asking yourself, what is your experience of life regardless of what happens? And do you want that experience of life more than you want the external outcome? And I'm not saying that you should, I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I'm just showing you cause and effect. As long as you want the external outcome more than you want the internal state, you're going to be on the emotional roller coaster. Sometimes you're going to get what you want and things will go good and you'll feel happy. And this is the thing, happiness is outside of you. Happiness comes from when things go well, when things are good. In other words, when things go the way that you want them to, you are happy. But you know from your own personal experience that that doesn't happen all the time. And so you go on this emotional roller coaster. And it's simply a matter of asking yourself, what do you want your experience of life to be? And do you want that more than the external outcome? Not only do you want it more than the external outcome, but do you understand that the internal state, the clarity, the confidence, the peace, the freedom, the joy, if you perform from that, if you perform with that consistent place within yourself by choosing your experience over the outcome, you then make it more likely to achieve what you want to achieve and actually get the so-called good. So again, it's not a matter of letting go. It's not a matter of detachment. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just showing you that as long as you want the outcome, you are going to be on an emotional roller coaster where sometimes you feel great, you feel confident, you feel peace and joy and freedom, and sometimes you feel disappointed. You feel disappointed, you feel sad, you don't meet expectations, things go wrong, and you get frustrated and upset at that. And that will, this will be your experience of life. I'm just showing you an alternative. I'm showing you a different cause to a different effect, which is asking yourself the question, what do you want your experience to be of life, regardless of what is happening? And then just showing you how, well, if you choose that consistent experience, you're going to have a consistent experience, but you're also going to be in a state where you are more likely to perform at your best and achieve what you want to achieve effortlessly. So it's kind of like, sometimes if we play this game, right? If we play this game here, sometimes we get what we want and sometimes we don't. And then sometimes we feel good because things go our way. And then sometimes we feel terrible because things don't go our way. And we feel frustrated and upset and disappointed and all the rest of it. So one, we sometimes get the outcome, and two, we sometimes get the feeling or the experience that we want. With this down here, by choosing your experience of life first and not having it attached to what happens to you and what you do, one, you far more consistently feel the way that you want to feel and experience life the way that you want to experience life. And two, you make it far more likely to achieve the things that you want to achieve and perform the way that you want to achieve, perform the way that you want to perform on a consistent basis. So this here is fluctuation and this here is consistency. And it's really as simple as that. This is where consistency comes from. It is simply choosing to experience life the way that you want to experience it, regardless of what is happening. That's the key part, is regardless of what is happening. As long as it's dictated by what you do or what you achieve or what happens to you, you're finished. You're playing the game of good versus bad. Some days everything goes well and you're happy, and a lot of the time you're frustrated and angry because things aren't going the way that you want them to go, and you don't feel the way that you want to feel. So that's it from me. That's all I wanted to show you today. Walk away and ask yourself this question: what is your experience of life, regardless of what is happening? What do you want your experience of life to be, regardless of what is happening? So we'll say that's one. What is your experience of life, regardless of what happens? What do you want your experience of life to be, regardless of what is happening? All right, and that's where the confidence. So two is then, what do you want your experience of life to be? Again, regardless of what is happening. So just to kind of like clarify, I guess, a little bit, something that makes a lot of sense, or kind of ties this in, is happiness versus joy. I think that kind of clarifies what I'm talking about on this roller coaster of good versus bad. So as I said to you before, all these external outcomes, all of these things that happen outside of you, whether it's performing the way that you want to perform, or making mistakes, or achieving the goal that you want to achieve, or the presentation flops, or you don't get the score that you wanted, or whatever. When things go well, you're happy, right? When the things outside of you, when events happen that you want, you are happy. But joy is this consistent state where even when you're down here, even when you're in a challenge, even when you're in a struggle, even when things are really tough, you can still have joy, right? You can enjoy the challenge, you can enjoy the struggle, you can enjoy the hard work, or the, whatever problem that you're facing. You can still enjoy that. And that kind of proves the point, the difference between these two things. If you're chasing happiness, if you're chasing success and outcomes, then sometimes you're going to feel happy, and a lot of times you're going to feel frustrated and disappointed. But if you chase joy, you can enjoy yourself no matter what happens. You can enjoy yourself when things are hard. You can enjoy yourself when things are easy. So it's consistent. It's a flat line. So that's where I then come back to, okay, so number one is, what is your experience of life regardless of what is happening? Number two is, what do you want your experience of life to be regardless of what happens? And three is, do you want this more than you want success? Do you want this more than the championship? Do you want this more than the the next client? Do you want this more than the achievement that you are chasing? Whatever your version of success is, do you want that experience of life more than your version of success? Now, again, I'm not saying that you should want it more. I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm simply saying that as long as you want success more, or as long as you want the outcome, as long as you want success more than you want the experience of life, the feeling that you want, the thoughts that you want, then you're going to be on this emotional roller coaster. That's just how it works. Sometimes you succeed and you're up here. Oftentimes you fail and you're down here, right? Everything goes well and then you make mistakes. That's just how it works when you want success more than your experience of life. I guess the fourth question that I would encourage you to ask is, when you work out what you want your experience of life to be, regardless of what happens, I would then encourage you to ask yourself, would this make it more likely for me to get what I want? Whether that's peak performance on the golf course, in a presentation, uh, whether that's landing more clients, whatever your version of success is, would that experience of life, whether you choose confidence no matter what happens, clarity, peace, freedom, joy, conviction, engagement, enjoyment, would choosing that experience of life, would choosing that state make it more likely for you to get what you want? I think the answer is obvious. I'm not going to answer it for you, but I think just going through that process and asking yourself that final question of, if I look at what do I want my experience of life to be, regardless of what happens? Like, if you think about when you achieve all the things that you want to achieve, how are you going to feel about yourself? Is it things like pride? Is it things like peace? Is it things like freedom or joy? That is, if that's what you ultimately want to experience after achieving everything that you want to achieve, if you chose to experience that now, regardless of what happens, regardless of the outcomes, would that make it more likely for you to get what you want? Whatever your version of success is, would being in that state now make it more likely to achieve what you want to achieve, instead of hoping that you get it after the achievement, if that makes sense? I think that's a really important question to ask and answer, because that will then help you to kind of come back to that state. Because again, this is, you know, you've been conditioned to chase success and money and wins your entire life. And so I'm not saying that this is going to be like an overnight fix. What I am saying is asking this final question of, would this state, would this experience of life make it more likely for me to get what I want, massively helps you come back to that state. You know, when you catch yourself getting fixated back on the outcomes and the success, and you know, the success versus failure, or making mistakes and getting frustrated and agitated, this allows you to come back to, no, having confidence no matter what happens makes it more likely that I'm going to succeed. Being relaxed no matter what happens makes it more likely that I'm going to succeed. Right? Enjoying myself no matter what happens, enjoying the struggle or the challenge or whatever, no matter what happens, actually makes it more likely that I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. That just helps you to anchor back in that internal state and put the internal state before the outcome. Because most people, it's you're here and then you're chasing the outcome over here. Oh, this is done really poorly. So you're here, and then you're saying you desperately want the outcome, and then you will have the experience that you want to experience, right? This is how everyone has been trained. This is 99% of people right here. You are chasing an outcome. You are trying to achieve a goal. You're trying to perform your best. You're trying to succeed. And when you succeed, that's when you'll feel joy. That's when you'll feel peace. That's when you'll finally feel good enough. But I'm sure your experience of life has been quite the opposite, right? You achieve something, you feel really great, and you celebrate, you feel good for 24 hours. And then the normal sort of experience, or your normal experience of life returns, which for most people is an underlying theme of disappointment and discontentment, because you're not where you want to be. Because as soon as you achieve something that you think will give you the experience of life that you want, you then find the next thing to chase, and then you get back on the cycle of discontentment. This approach to life and to success is why we all have the anxiety and the fear and the frustration at mistakes. Because basically we're saying, I didn't get what I want, I didn't perform the way that I wanted to perform, I made mistakes, and therefore I feel really crap about myself. Because because you desperately want the outcome, you then have the anxiety or the fear of not getting the outcome, of things not going your way. And so you have this fear of making mistakes. And then when you do make mistakes, you then get frustrated, because that then impacts on the likelihood of you achieving the outcome, and therefore not getting the thing that you want and not getting the experience of life that you want. What I'm saying with all of this and all of these questions, and choosing to have a certain experience of life regardless of what is happening, is just changing the order. So you are here, you then choose your experience of life no matter what happens, and then over here you then have outcomes. So then no matter what happens, you still get the experience. I think that's one of the key things, is no matter what happens, that's the whole point. No matter what happens, at least you experience life the way that you want to experience it. Yes, you are going to make it more likely that you are going to achieve the things that you want to achieve. You're going to make it more likely that you are going to perform at your best. So I'll just say this. It's a consistent likelihood of peak performance and success. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I'm not saying your entire life is going to change, although it actually probably will, because, well, whether you succeed or fail, that's weird. Hmm. Whether you succeed or fail, you still experience life the way that you want to experience it. You still have peace, success or failure. You still have freedom, success or failure. You still have joy, success or failure. You still experience life the same way no matter what happens. But in that experience, by having that approach, by having peace no matter what happens, by having freedom or confidence or clarity no matter what happens, you make it more likely that you will perform at your best and achieve what you want to achieve, and on a consistent basis. I know I went on a little bit more than I thought I would, but I hope that really makes everything concrete. I'll go back up to the questions again. I think write these down. If this is what you want to do, if you've made it this far, what is your experience of life regardless of what happens? It's probably good to take an inventory of how you currently experience life. So think about the last time that you achieved, uh, success, you achieved what you wanted to achieve. How long did that last? And then what was your experience of life after that? What's your normal? What's your average at the moment, right? And if you're like most people, as I said, it's probably quite a consistent underlying discontentment with where you are, because you're not all that you can be. You're not who being the best that you can be. You're not performing at the best that you can be, and you're not achieving all the things that you want to achieve. And therefore, you've just got this constant kind of underlying anxiety or discontentment with where you are. And so asking this question, that's then taking inventory. You can then say, okay, well, what do I want my experience life to be no matter what happens? What do I actually want to experience no matter what? Then asking, okay, if I look at that, if I experience that every single day for the rest of my life, do I want that more than whatever my version of success is? And would that experience, or would being in that state of mind actually make it more likely for me to get what I want? That's it from me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.